Good afternoon, everyone. This is LQ from LQ's Watercolor Studio. Lesson 4. We're going to continue today with Lesson 3. We're going to enliven the trees a little bit with a little bit more detail. What we did initially in Lesson 3 was we applied the paint to the paper, and it should be dry now. If you need to do another tree, you can do a tree on your own, or you can watch Lesson 3 again. And this type of tree is a deciduous tree, which is typically hardwood, and they're trees that have their leaves that change color, particularly in the fall. What I want to do here, I want to do a dry brush technique. This was the tree that I did on the 90-pound paper. So you can add detail, and with a dry brush technique, you need less water on your brush, you need paint, and you can choose whatever color you want. So I want a little bit more in this, and the sun is coming on this side. I want a little bit more yellow over here to show up, and then a little bit darker color as well. So I'm going to put a little bit of yellow right on top, and with like a little dabbing motion, and that gives more the effect of leaves. Now, if you have a really, really close-up tree that you want to show off the leaves, there's nothing to say that you cannot do that. But in a lot of the watercolor, you don't need to show every leaf. It would take forever to complete every leaf. So we're going to put a little bit more up here. Okay, now we're going to make a little bit of the green, and a little bit of the green I make with blue. This is French ultramarine blue. Just use some of the paint that's in my palette, add a little bit of water to it. And we're going to add a little bit more French ultramarine to that. Wash out my brush, touch it on the cloth, add a little bit more yellow. Get like a mid-tone green. Okay, now we're going to do, and make sure there's not too much paint on your brush. You hold it at the base where the metal touches. The metal thing is called a ferrule. And you come in and you touch again with like a little dabbing motion. You can do it like so. Now there's other things that you can use to apply paint as well. You can use a sponge. Okay, I have a sponge here. And I'm going to dampen that sponge because right now it's hard. So I take that sponge, soften it up a little bit, get the excess water out, and then I go into the paint in my paint pool, and I dab in color. Turn it all around. We can even go in, we need to have a little puddle of the colors that you want. We'll have yellow here. Some blue here. And go into a little bit of each of them. All right, so we do a little bit of yellow here with the color that's already in. So if you want to use a different color, you're going to contaminate the first color, so you just turn the sponge to a different area, unless you want to mix them. So we're going to do a little bit of the darker green down here. Okay. A little bit more yellow. I'm going to spray the sponge again on this side. Okay, I think that's all on the 90-pound. Now on the 140-pound, there's more detail already. It's only because the paper is more forgiving, and it looks more realistic already, but we need to add a little bit. Now the sun is coming on this side, so let's make some yellow. Our blue pile is here. Okay, nice juicy amount of blue and yellow. All right, so we're going to add a little bit of yellow to the yellow side right up here. We're also going to add a little bit of yellow in the middle, right on top of the darker color that we have there. Oh, I got those colors contaminated there, which is easy enough to do when you're in a hurry. There we go. Okay. Still in my brush. All right. Okay, now a little bit of blue. Okay, and like that, and we're going to call that quits. Okay, we started last time with some grasses. Now, we did some grasses on the 140 pound, and on the 90 pound, we didn't do any grasses. So let's continue with the 90 pound, and here we have a light green. So we're going to brighten that up a little bit, and I'm going to put in a little bit of yellow right in front. And just hold your brush sideways and kind of drag it, and you'll get those stringy, leafy shapes. Now we're going to add some of the blue. And if the yellow is still wet, it will certainly start to show up as green. And just touch it in spots. I hope you can see that. Okay, now another thing that you can do is you can take a credit card, not a current one, and you can, when it's still damp, you can take and you can make other shapes here. If you do it too soon, the line will be dark. If you do it just at the right time, you'll get a white line. Now, it's not very dark on the other side, so why don't we add a little bit, we're going to add a little bit of brown at the base. Now, I want to show you what it will do if I go too soon. All right, I just put that on, so it hasn't seeped into the paper yet. Well, it's still, because there is paint there already, it's not making that dark line. So, but we get a variation. Now, why don't we try doing the bark on the tree? This looks rather flat. We have nice shape that we got from adding the light on this side and the dark on this side, so it has a contour look. But if we just take a little bit of one of the browns that you have and make sure your brush is damp. Again, you don't want it very wet because you want to drag the brush along to create these irregular shapes. So we're going to come like so. Again, hold your brush sideways, not with a tip. It's going to be darker towards the base because that's where the roots go in, and there's a lot less light there. And we even want to go on the outside a little bit to make it look a little raggedy. because tree with the bark, it's not smooth for most trees. All right, why don't we do maybe like a knot hole? Get a lot of dark on your brush. Here you can use the tip of your brush and just kind of drag it along. Now, for the branches, you can, if you do not have a rigger, you can have a fine point brush, and you can either use almost any brush. This is like a 4 or 5. And here I started some branches, and you want to have the branches break because the leaves cover up where they go. So it's hiding. So it looks more realistic if you break it up. Now, another way to put in branches is just to dip your brush, or this, we're going to use a feather here. See what a feather looks like. Let's see what a feather looks like for the branches. And remember, the more wiggly, the more realistic it's going to look. This is just a feather, which you can find in the yard. And it has light and dark through it, so that looks really, where it skips along, it looks more realistic. You can even drag it along the side here and just have a little bit of your dark color on the end of the feather. Not much water at all. And we can also have like a small branch or small tree coming up from the base. We're going to put some color on the bottom of that branch, again, to make that branch look more round. That's where the shadow side is. Okay, so that's that tree. Now, let's try it on the 90-pound paper. Let's see how we can do with a 90-pound paper. My favorite, if you haven't guessed already, is 140-pound. But the 90-pound is great to practice with. It's great to try different things. So why don't we start with painting some grass. Let's start with the grass. And just kind of like a solid block here. Again, drag your brush, use the side of your brush, and have the shapes going in different directions. Okay, now we're going to take a little bit of blue, and the 90-pound paper, we cannot use as much water. Okay, that's too much water. I'm going to go back with a little bit more yellow. Okay, now let's see if we can take the feather and we can get lines with the feather. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of the green in my palette, the actual green without it being yellow and blue. See what we get here. Okay. Now, let's try a little bit of dry brush on this tree. All right, make sure your brush is damp. Take out the excess moisture, wipe it on the cloth. Touch one of your browns. And again, we're going to touch near the ferrule here to make sure there's not too much moisture. Kind of squeeze it there, not too much moisture. Okay, side brush. Okay, I see a root coming through here, so it's, and we're going to make it kind of jaggedy here. make it look more like a realistic tree. Now I'm going to turn it around, which you can do anytime you want. You can always turn your paper around. Now this side is going to be a little bit lighter, so let's go in with like, this is Quin Gold, but a raw sienna or something like that. And make sure it's dry brush again. Squeeze out that moisture. We want to keep that look of sun coming from this side. All right, so let's go a little bit outside of the lines here. I went a little bit too far there, but that's okay. All right, we can add a little bit of that Quin Gold into the grasses here. Now, these are trees that are close up. Trees that are further away, you have even less detail. So I'm going to put a little bit of moisture here. Say there's a stand of trees all the way back here. So you don't want to make your lines straight. You want to, because trees go up and down, branches go all over the place. But if it's a stand of trees all the way back there, they're going to be very light in color. So the further things are away, the cooler in color they are. So we're going to make this just like a light green. So we're going to touch back here, and we're just going to let it kind of do its own thing. Going to continue here. Okay, we leave that alone for a while. Let's do the same thing on the 140-pound paper. Okay, so we're going to dampen it slightly in the back here. Not too much. And kind of like a light blue and light yellow all mixed, so it's just a light shade. And don't make it a solid line. Have it broken up, because that's the way trees are. Trees get all broken up. Okay. Now, we did not do any more branches on the 90-pound. The 90-pound, let's try doing, if you don't have a sharp point, you could even use a Sharpie. Just a regular old Sharpie from the store. And this is going to be permanent. And let's just show you here. Kind of drag it along. Make it look really kind of like bunches of branches. Go over this one a little bit. Can even go on the outside of the tree a little. And we didn't do a knot in this one. We can go over here and do a knot in this one. Maybe there would be a little owl or creature that might make a home in there. Okay. Et voila. That's done. Okay, I think that will be it for today. I hope you like this video, and I'll be back again soon with another one. Thank you. Bye now.